it's a little hard to quite appreciate now because there's Twitter, there's Facebook, there's a limitless number of platforms who will get you up and going instantly to start expressing yourself. In those days, you couldn't just start a Twitter account and suddenly you're like talking to as many people as you can find to listen to you. These outlets didn't exist, and they especially didn't exist with the freedom and informality that TPM had created or been part of. And TPM from the beginning had a very smart, learned, sharp audience. And there were a lot of people who were people you really would want to hear from, who were readers of TPM. And a lot of them wanted to be involved, right? Wanted some of that, wanted to be part of that conversation. And so some of it was just, hey, you know, I can sort of like become a locus for this, right? I can sort of make that possible, and you know, sit back and get the glow of the awesomeness of it. And that was basically it. I can sort of create a venue where a lot of interesting, smart people can carry on these ongoing conversations that in some ways they're carrying on in emails with me. And that was the idea. Now, the Daily Kos ecosystem was already very, you know, vibrant and alive and a big deal at that point. So there were some similarities with that, and we eventually did have it where, you know, readers could set up their own, you know, conversations. But what I wanted to do was have it somewhat curated. And so we had a book club, we had Elizabeth Warren's blog, we had which I don't even know if this has come up in this sort of anniversary conversation. We had a whole blog devoted to labor politics called House of Labor, and then we had one called the Coffee House, which was just a bunch of sort of smart, famous people, you know, kind of talking. And that was the idea. And it was a logical place to me for TPM to expand into. And the thing was that at the time, and my initial kind of concept of this was that it was a different site. And Muckraker was TPM Muckraker was a different site. And eventually I sort of realized that didn't make any sense, because when you start different, like the way that Gawker, you know, one of Nick Denton's sort of many points of genius is that he started these new sites, but each site had a different audience. Some of them had overlapping audience, Gawker and Jezebel, but to a great degree, they had, you know, Kotaku and you know, Jalopnik. These had totally different audiences, and in business terms, that makes sense. You want non-overlapping audiences, but these audiences were entirely overlapping because they were kind of permutations of the same thing, different, and that's why we eventually consolidated them all together. But that's the sort of the story with TPM Cafe. It was something that there was a window of time where it was something TPM could create with very little money. And so we created it. And that's the story with a lot of TPM stuff.